Atlanta had always been a city of noise, engines roaring, horns blaring, life moving at a relentless pace. But for me, the sound that defined my world was different: the rhythmic clank of tools striking metal, the hum of an engine finding its heartbeat again. I'm Marcus Hale, 32 years old, and I make a living breathing life into forgotten machines. In the workshop where I work, surrounded by chrome and grease, I find a strange kind of peace. Every car that comes through our doors carries a story, a fragment of someone's history, and restoring it feels like preserving time itself. When I wasn't under the hood, I was home with Lena. We'd been married a year, and though our apartment was small, it felt warm, alive with the scent of her coffee and the soft hum of her laughter. She was smart, beautiful, an accountant with a spark that once made me believe we could conquer anything together. I didn't know then how fragile that warmth could be, how quickly love could rust when trust was lost. My father, Harlan Hale, was the man who first taught me what it meant to build something with your hands and your heart. He'd been a legend back home in Savannah, Georgia. People said he could make any broken thing breathe again, machines or men. My mother, Clara, was gentle but too forgiving. And then there was my brother, Nolan. 2 years younger, full of charm and excuses. Where I found pride in honest work, Nolan found comfort in shortcuts. That morning started like any other. I was working on a 1950s Chevrolet, lost in the rhythm of turning bolts and checking pistons, when my phone buzzed on the workbench. It was Mom. She never called during my shift. I wiped my hands and answered. Her voice trembled, thin and breaking. Marcus, your father, he's gone. The wrench slipped from my fingers and clattered to the floor. For a moment, the workshop faded, the smell of oil, the chatter of my co-workers, all of it vanished into silence. Dad had been fine the night before. He'd even called to tell me about a new carburetor design he was tinkering with. But just like that, he was gone, his heart giving out while working on his beloved 1970 Porsche 911. The drive to Savannah was a blur of headlights and tears. The river shimmered under a fading sun when I pulled into our old driveway. The house looked smaller somehow, emptier. Inside, Mom was pale and trembling, her hands clutching a worn photograph of Dad. Nolan was there too, perfectly dressed, offering polite condolences, but avoiding my eyes. The funeral was simple but beautiful. Sunlight streamed through stained glass, painting the chapel in hues of blue and gold. People shared stories about Dad, how he'd worked through storms, how he never cheated a customer, how he refused to sell that Porsche even when someone offered him $5 million. He said it wasn't just a car, it was a promise to himself. I stood beside his coffin, my hand resting on the polished wood. I'll take care of everything, Dad, I whispered. I'll make you proud. 2 weeks later, the lawyer gathered us at the old oak dining table. The air felt thick, heavy with anticipation. Mr. Whitaker, our family's lawyer, cleared his throat and began reading. To my beloved wife, Clara, our home and the savings account. To my son, Nolan, a compass, with the note, find your direction and stay true. To my eldest son, Marcus, the 1970 Porsche 911. The room went still. I felt my heart pound. The Porsche was Dad's soul, his greatest creation. I didn't see it as a prize, but as a trust. Nolan's chair screeched against the floor as he stood up, his voice sharp. A compass? He gives me a compass while you get a car worth millions. He always loved you more. Enough, Mom said, her voice shaking. But Nolan's glare burned through me. Respect Dad's wishes, I said quietly. You know what that car meant to him. But Mom turned to me, eyes pleading. Marcus, maybe you should sell the car and share the money. Family should help each other. Her words hit harder than Nolan's anger. For the first time, I saw her clearly, not as the nurturing mother I'd always adored, but as someone willing to compromise integrity for peace. I left the house without another word, Lena following silently behind me. Back in Atlanta, I threw myself into work. The scent of oil, the hum of engines, it all helped dull the ache. But something in Lena began to change. She worked late more often, wore new perfumes, and kept her phone locked under company policy. Her smile felt distant. Still, I told myself it was stress, not betrayal. 3 months passed. One evening, after finishing a restoration project, I drove home with a strange sense of unease. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. Lena's coat was gone. Her shoes by the door, gone. Half the closet, empty. My chest tightened as I rushed to the garage. The Porsche was gone too. On the kitchen counter, a folded note waited. I'm sorry, Marcus. I need space. Please don't try to find me. My hands shook. I called her, texted her, nothing. It felt like the world had collapsed in a single moment. The car, my father's last piece of himself, was gone. The woman I loved had vanished with it. Desperate, I drove back to Savannah. Mom opened the door, her eyes red, but not surprised. I told her everything, about Lena, the car, the note. She hesitated, looking away. Marcus, maybe Lena just needs time, she said softly. Then she slipped, one word too many. Nolan shouldn't have let it get this far. The room spun. What do you mean, Nolan? I demanded. She crumbled, tears spilling down her cheeks. They were close. It was a mistake. I thought it would pass. I didn't want to hurt you. I stared at her, disbelief and fury mixing like oil and fire. A mistake. They stole everything, Mom. My father's car, my wife, my peace, and you stayed silent. I left before she could answer. Rain poured as I drove aimlessly through the dark. Every memory of my family twisted into something bitter. I could almost hear Dad's voice from years ago. A true machine demands honor, Marcus. Keep your word, no matter what it costs. 4 days, I barely slept. I replayed every moment, Lena's growing distance, Nolan's envy, Mom's pleading eyes. It all made sense now. The betrayal wasn't sudden, it had been building for years, hidden beneath politeness and smiles. Then, one afternoon, a call came that would change everything. Marcus. It's Elias, from Elias Vintage Autos. Elias was an old friend of Dad's, a man who shared his passion for restoration. I think you should come down here, he said. I've got something that belongs to you. When I arrived, Elias led me to the back of the garage. There it was, the Porsche 911. Gleaming. Untouched. My breath caught. Your wife tried to sell it, Elias explained. Said it was her inheritance. But I recognized Harlan's work anywhere. I knew something wasn't right. He handed me the keys. Your father once helped me when I was down. Consider this me paying him back. Driving the Porsche home, I felt something shift inside me. The engine purred like a living memory, steady, powerful, loyal. For the first time since Dad's death, I felt him with me again. That night, I began inspecting the car closely. Beneath the driver's seat, I found a small hidden compartment, a folder sealed in plastic, marked with Dad's handwriting. My heart pounded as I opened it. Inside were documents, bank records, and photos, proof of Nolan's scams and fraudulent dealings, and a letter. Marcus, I know about your brother's choices. I hoped he'd change, but I trust you to do what's right. Honor is the legacy that never fades. I'm proud of you, son. Rain drummed softly against the garage roof, as I sat in the driver's seat of my father's Porsche. The hum of the engine had always comforted me, but that night, it felt different, like a heartbeat from the past urging me toward something unfinished. The folder I'd found in the hidden compartment lay open beside me, its contents spelling out a truth both painful and necessary. My father had known Nolan's darkness all along. He hadn't been blind to it, he'd simply believed his youngest son would find his way back to the light. I spent hours studying those documents. Each page revealed another layer of deceit: fake investment accounts, fraudulent transfers, false promises. Nolan had been scamming people for years, using charm and lies as tools. Dad must have carried that burden silently, protecting our family name until his last breath. And now, that weight rested on my shoulders, days blurred together as I tried to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to let it go, to walk away, and start fresh somewhere far from Savannah's ghosts. But another part, stronger, quieter, knew that silence would be a betrayal of everything my father stood for. One afternoon, as I was leaving the workshop, a knock echoed through the rain. I opened the door and froze. Lena stood there, drenched and trembling. Her once polished hair hung in tangled strands, her eyes hollowed by regret. "Marcus," her voice cracked. "Please." I had nowhere else to go. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The image of her laughing in our kitchen flashed before me, so bright, so distant now. I stepped aside and let her in. She sat by the window, clutching a mug of tea I'd handed her. "Nolan told me we'd start over," she whispered. "He said he'd sell the car, and we'd move to California." I believed him. But after he sold it, he disappeared. Took everything. The money, my savings, my dignity. Her tears came fast. "I lost my job, Marcus. I lost everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know the truth." I listened silently, my emotions a storm of anger, pity, and exhaustion. When she finished, I spoke softly. "I believe you. But believing doesn't mean I can forget." She reached for my hand, but I pulled back gently. "I wish you peace, Lena," I said. "But you need to find it somewhere else." When she left, I felt strangely calm. The ache of betrayal still lingered, but something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the same man she had left behind. That night, I opened the folder again. My father's letter stared back at me, his final lesson written in his careful hand. "Do what's right, no matter the hurt. Integrity will cost you, but it will never leave you empty." The next morning, I drove to Mr. Whitaker's office, the folder on the passenger seat. He looked up, surprised to see me. "I have something you need to see," I said. When he opened the documents, his brows furrowed. "Marcus, this is serious: fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. If this is real, your brother could face years in prison." I nodded. "It's real. I've checked everything." He hesitated. "You're sure you want to go through with this? It will divide your family." "My family's already divided," I replied quietly. "This isn't about revenge. It's about justice." Later that day, I handed the evidence to the police. The officer who took the report nodded solemnly. "We'll investigate immediately. Thank you for coming forward." That night, my phone rang. It was Mom. Her voice shook. "How could you do this, Marcus? He's your brother." I closed my eyes, fighting the lump in my throat. "I did what Dad would have done. Nolan hurt too many people, Mom. Someone had to stop him." Silence hung between us, heavy and final. Then she whispered, "I only wanted to protect him." "I know," I said softly. "But protecting someone who destroys others isn't love, it's surrender." A week later, the police found Nolan in a small motel in Florida. He'd been trying to flee with the last of his stolen money. They brought him back to Georgia in handcuffs. When I saw his picture on the news, I didn't feel victory, only sadness. Mr. Whitaker called soon after. He's been charged, Marcus. It's a long list. He could be sentenced to several years. I thanked him and hung up, staring at the wall until my thoughts blurred. I'd spent my life believing family meant unconditional loyalty. But now I understood, it also meant holding each other accountable. A few days later, Mom came to see me. Her face was tired, her eyes swollen from crying. You destroyed us, she said quietly. I spoiled him, yes, but you finished what was left. I shook my head gently. No, Mom. I stopped pretending everything was fine. Dad always said honor doesn't bend for convenience. I just followed his lesson. She broke down, and for the first time, I saw her not as my mother, but as a woman crushed between love and guilt. I wrapped my arms around her, and she wept against my shoulder. I'm sorry, she whispered. For all of it. I know, I said. And I forgive you. Months passed before the trial. When it finally began, I sat quietly in the back of the courtroom. Nolan looked smaller somehow, his arrogance gone, replaced by something hollow. When the verdict came, guilty on multiple counts, he didn't look at me. He just stared at the floor. Afterward, I received a letter from him. The handwriting was hurried, angry. You took everything from me, Marcus. You call it justice. I call it betrayal. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the same folder with Dad's note. Maybe one day, Nolan would understand that justice isn't the opposite of love, it's what makes it real. Life began to heal slowly after that. I spent more time in the workshop, restoring cars and mentoring young mechanics, who reminded me of myself at their age. Mom started visiting on weekends, bringing cookies like she used to. We talked honestly for the first time in years, about Dad, about forgiveness, about how love sometimes means making the hardest choices. One sunny afternoon, I took the Porsche out for a drive along the Savannah River. The same road Dad and I used to travel when I was a boy. The wind brushed against my face, and for a moment, I could almost hear his laughter again. I parked by the old docks and sat there, staring at the rippling water. I did what you asked, Dad, I said aloud. I kept my word. I did what was right. A strange peace settled over me. The kind that doesn't erase pain but transforms it. I realized then that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's freedom. Over time, Nolan began writing from prison again. The tone of his letters softened. He asked about Mom, about the workshop, about the Porsche. There was no anger now, only reflection. Maybe, just maybe, he was finally finding his direction, just like the compass Dad left him had urged him to. Now, when I work late in the garage, the hum of engines feels different. It's not just noise, it's music. It reminds me that even broken things can be made whole again, if you're willing to face the truth. I often tell my apprentices, a machine without integrity will always fail. So will a man. They smile, not fully understanding yet, but they will. Looking back, I lost a lot, my father, my marriage, my illusions about family. But I gained something far more enduring, clarity, peace, and the unshakable knowledge that doing the right thing, no matter how painful, always leads you home. As I switch off the garage lights each night, the Porsche gleams under the faint glow, a symbol of endurance, of lessons learned, of love that outlives betrayal. I whisper the same words my father once told me. Honor isn't what you inherit, it's what you choose to keep. And in that quiet moment, I know I've finally earned mine.